Hey everybody, it is Derek, aka Mr. Shred with Masters of Shred, your number one source of all your daily shredtacular content. We have a very special guest here today. He is none other than the Big Apple, the NYC Shred Outlaw. Folks, I want you to give a big round of applause for the mighty Scotti Hill of Skid Row.
Derek, how are you, pal?
Thank you.
Good to see you,
One
man.
clap. It's great to see you too, man. Last time I saw you, you did a phenomenal masterclass that people were still raving about today. And I'm actually going to post everyone's video submissions. It's been about 2.5 weeks now, so it gave them time to gather it. We're posting them all up probably by tomorrow. So always great to see you.
That was so much fun, man.
It was, right?
Oh, we were on for like, what, 3 hours or something?
Almost. See, once it gets started, it's hard to stop, right? I mean, everyone's so invested in it at that point that it's like you just forget what time it is. And then I have to remind you that it's time for everybody to go to bed, so we need to end this, right?
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, having a small group like that was like, what, 20 people? It's like they're my babies. I want to make sure everybody gets a little attention and gets their questions in, We did the lesson, and then after that we kind of just did a Q&A session that went on for a while. They asked me to demonstrate some things, and it was just really cool.
There's a lot of questions people have that were great, and some people knew you for years too, which is also awesome. Reconnecting,
some regular front row faces out there.
And you taught more than one solo. They got 2-for-1 deal out of that. I think they got a threesome deal. It was like 3 songs you went over.
Yeah, a couple in there. Yep.
Little perks, little bonuses that you get with Masters of Shred master classes that you don't get with others. That's the way to look at it, right?
That's right.
So that was phenomenal. We'll definitely have to do some more of those down the road because the promotions was amazing for it. All the videos and the reception was fantastic. So that was a blast.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely, any day of the week. And I think we had to address something that, I mean, it'd be crazy not to address because you have some history with this person as well. I know that. I'll let you two talking on it. So, unfortunately, in an unbelievable fashion, we lost the mighty Eddie Van Halen, dare I say, the godfather of shred and possibly the pioneer of all things 80s guitar after that. One of those influential players ever.
Yeah.
Right? It's a little bit. And it's been, for us here, about a week of nonstop Van Halen. I'm curating the craziest content, trying to find the old stuff, like SNL performances, which you're familiar with. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But all that stuff. But I mean, how did you react when you first heard that news this past?
Well, I wasn't all super surprised. I had been hearing things on the grapevine for a few months now that he was not doing well. So I didn't expect it to be so soon. I was, of course you're hoping that things will change, but as we all know, he had been battling cancer for years and years. But it's interesting. I was out on a bike, on a long bike ride, and I stopped to look at my map, and I pulled my phone out, and there's all this Ed messages, and I was like, Ed who? And then I was like, wow. So I'm sitting on the side of the road, and I'm like kind of sad, just what a bummer, man. And then it was really a shock, because even though I knew he wasn't doing well, it was still a shock. I think it was just like all of us. It was just a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And then and of course I'm out on a long bicycle ride, and I'm reminiscing in my head as I'm riding along. I'm like, oh, this ride's for Eddie, And I'm thinking about the first time I heard Eruption, which was in Greg Phillips' bedroom. And he was a guitar player that I played in the very first band with when I was like 14. And Greg was like, you got to hear this guitar player. And he put Eruption on, and he goes, this is a guitar. This is all a guitar, just one guitar. And I remember that moment. I remember what it sounded like. I remember how it made me feel. I was just like that, just the whole picture that it paints. You know, you close your eyes and it just it's so imaginative, you know. And so, you know, I'm reminiscing about all this stuff, and it's like, wow, just go through the history and all those Van Halen moments. You know, the first time I heard, my favorite Van Halen record is Fair Warning, and the first time I heard it, I was in Boston. I think I was like 17 or something like that, 16 maybe. And I remember just being blown away. The solo to This Is Love. So This Is Love. It was like hearing that the first time. And I can remember like the fluorescent lights in the room. It's like these moments in your life that are so long ago. You know, some of these moments happen longer than some of your viewers have been around, but they happened so long ago and they're so vivid in my memory that it's incredible the impact that they have.
You know, it's funny you say it because I agree with you in the fact that people don't realize there's a generation, your generation, that got to experience that because the way my generation probably experienced it,
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you the first time I heard Eruption.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a lot of people can my age, but I can't because I was already conditioned with a bunch of other artists that came after. I had heard Yngwie probably at that point and Randy Rhoads. So, you know, oh, it was amazing, but
Yeah,
you don't really
but
grasp.
This was another thing.
Yes, for you guys, there was none before. There was nothing at that time like it.
Right.
So
I
to
mean,
hear that,
there was this, but it was so. I mean, really, nobody realized there was this until Eddie came along. Guys were doing tapping and a little bit of that and this, but it was never even close to the forefront. So that exploded on the scene. But for me, Eddie Van Halen was much more than this. That's secondary to me. It was just that creativity and the tone. I mean, just you could write volumes on the tone alone.
Yep.
You know, I about a week before he died, I was over it. I don't know if you've seen Phil X's video of Unchained.
I don't think I caught that one. He posted that recently.
Look it up on YouTube. It's great,
you know,
because
okay.
he does a cover of Unchained and he nails the tone. And then at the end of the video, he goes over how he got the tone. And when I was over there while he was tone chasing, and he was telling me all these. He was doing research, and he played on a hardtail and try this and that, and so, you know, that's an example of how just the tone alone, you can just tone search forever, trying to find that tone. And of course, we all know it's the hands, but you know, that tone it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I think I heard even Steve Brown say that he saw, I think, Ted Nugent plug into Eddie Van Halen's rig, and he sounded like Ted Nugent.
Yeah.
He didn't sound like Van Halen. You know, so it didn't matter. You were using the man's rig. It was definitely in the hands.
Oh yeah.
You know,
definitely.
So that's a big way to say. And of course, now people are starting to acknowledge, and they always had, but more so now when you're really analyzing for the past week, this man's, you know, depth of work, his rhythm playing, which was just second to none. I mean,
okay,
you listen.
Here's another Phil X thing. He goes into I'm the One.
Okay.
He does a video of I'm the One, and he talks about the swing. Everybody can do a video of that. Everybody can play it. I don't care what you do. You don't have that swing. That's that thing. That's the magic.
Yep.
That's the thing. You can go to any music school. You can do it all. But that has to be something that comes from inside of you. Not everybody can learn it. And the people that can learn it can't read it in a book. It's just something that's got to happen.
Right. And that's a good way to put it, the swing. I know some refer to it as the shuffle. The shuffle he had.
Yeah.
That a lot of players don't. And I agree. I'd say his rhythm playing, in my cases, blew my mind more so when I'm looking now as a more seasoned player than his soloing, because it's like, how's he keeping this groove and all the little the little things here and here, the bends, the squeals, just making every phrase just oozing with character. You
Yep.
can, I mean, but the sad part is a lot of people got to think this stuff over. I don't think he had to think. He just like, yeah,
No, no, no,
it's cool.
no. That
I'm just feeling this. Let's try this. It's like,
totally.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
he's definitely one of those guys that comes around once in a lifetime that just changes things.
Yeah,
You know?
I was talking to my son the other day. He's 9, and I was explaining to him. I was like, Marshall, you've heard me talk about Eddie Van Halen. It's like, yeah, yeah, from Van Halen. And I explained to him that he died and he was really sick. And I was explaining to him how guitar sounded a certain way, and then Eddie Van Halen came along and guitar sounded different. It's the same thing with Hendrix. Hendrix was one of those guys, and then came Eddie Van Halen. And growing up in that time, I mean, I lived through it. I saw it. I heard it. I heard how guitar changed. And it's hard to explain, but you really have to go back through the music and go before, what was it, 77, 78, and listen to guitar players and what they were doing, and listen to their tones, and listen to how they were playing, and how the guitar was recorded, and everything about it, and it all changed after that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well said. You would go on, and I think it's safe to say you were probably one of the many millions of people that were influenced by Eddie Van Halen's playing. You had kind of a similar thing going with your guitar in the sense of a super strat that was modded at one point, a particular blue guitar that you took the logo off of a tape over.
Yeah.
Was that brought out by Van Halen, what he did to some degree?
I'm sure it was. I don't remember what I was thinking when I stripped that guitar down. That we're talking about the Blue Jackson. It's like a Strat. And when I got it, it had it was an HSS, right?
Right.
Humbucker, 2 singles, and then I just pulled everything out and I put a JB in the bridge, and that's how it remains today. And 1 knob, yeah. So that's definitely, like I said, I don't know what I was thinking, but that's definitely Van Halen. That's definitely me, going that way. And when I posted my little tribute on Instagram, somebody wrote, "Oh, was Eddie Van Halen an influence on you?" And I'm like, "What?
Right.
You really just asked me that?"
Right.
It's an innocent question, sure.
Right.
But really? I mean,
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Influence on a decade and more. I'd say 40, what is it, almost 40 years since he broke out. So
right.
yeah.
He can't not be an influence.
Right.
If you're a guitar player growing up at that time, I don't care what anybody says, he can't not be an influence.
Right. Yeah. And he was influenced on my generation. For me, I can tell you right off the bat. Yeah. I know there are some players that are younger that are in the main spotlight for the instrumental program, and they haven't publicly acknowledged his passing, whether they were influenced or not. I've come across some people who just weren't influenced.
They were influenced by him second generation.
Right.
If they're doing this, they were influenced by it,
whether they realize it or not.
Right.
Yes.
If they're doing this, they were influenced.
If they're plugging in their guitar, they were influenced by it. Right. Right. I was crazy.
They may have been influenced by a guy who was influenced by him.
Yes.
But
there it is.
Influenced by him.
And there's something else too.
And if they say different, we're fighting.
Right? Yep. I think that's about accurate. Yeah. Something else I wanted to I'll run by you too, and that was talking about touring, because you actually hit the road with Van Halen, if I'm right on this, in 1995.
Yeah,
tell me about that.
I was just a few minutes ago. I was like, "Oh, we're going to talk about that tour." What year was that? For some reason I couldn't remember what year that was. Yeah, all right. I guess it was 95. I don't remember what record that was for Van Halen, but
it was their Balance, I believe. Balance, right?
Right. And Sammy Hagar was in the band, and it was everything you would expect from getting to, walk into Van Halen sound check and stand 10 feet away and watch Eddie Van Halen have fun during sound check.
Right. Did you
And
ever actually rub elbows with him during that or during the hallways or anything like that? Any
yeah, yeah.
memorable moments?
Well, here's a crazy thing. You would be sitting in your dressing room in the afternoon, just, there's a lot of downtime, when you're out on these tours, so, you show up and you're there for hours before anything even happens. And you'd be sitting in your dressing room, just, doing whatever. And all of a sudden the door would open and Eddie Van Halen would walk into the room carrying his guitar and be like, "What are you guys doing?" That,
Oh,
because he's bored too. So, he's
right.
probably like, "Oh, let's go see what the opening band's doing." So you're like, you're Eddie Van Halen, so it's like just mind blowing shit like that. He would, you'd see him in the halls and chat, and he would hang out in the dressing room for a little while. It was, wasn't like a one off type of thing. He would every couple days he'd wander in, say hello, make some small talk, and then run off. So it was pretty mind blowing. And then you
Right. You ever? Yeah.
go out and watch the show, and he'd do Eruption, and you walk down into the photo pit and just stand and look up at him and be like, "Holy shit!" And you can hear him on all the records and stuff. And then when you stand there in front of him and watch it, it's the craziest thing ever.
Did you ever think the first time you heard Van Halen, it blew your mind? Your favorite album was Fair Warning. The first time you heard it, did you ever think, I'm going to be on stage with this guy 10, 15 years later? Did it ever come through? You ever say, I'm going to
No,
do this?
no,
It's
it's
happened.
no. So it was pretty exciting when we got that tour to to get to do that,
Yeah.
and get to see all those guys and hang out. And, Michael Anthony was very social. Alex wasn't the most social guy, but he was very friendly. We didn't see a whole lot of Alex, but uh, I remember one night I had some friends at the show, and we were hanging out in our dressing room afterwards, and and for some reason those guys had to leave through our dressing room. There was like a back door or something like that. So when Ed walked through the room, these guys were like, "Holy shit!" They were just freaking out, and he goes, "See you, Scotty." He was on his way out the door, just saying goodnight. And those guys were just like, I was pretty blown away too, because to hear your name come out of his mouth, it's like he knows who I am.
Right.
And the look on my friends' faces was priceless. I mean, jaws on the floor, just like, holy shit, royalty just walked through the room.
Said
Because
your
they
name.
because they saw the show, but he's in the room, you're in the room. They probably still tell people, I was
Right.
in a room with Eddie Van Halen.
Where
Absolute
they,
royalty.
right. And I heard they called that tour, they referred to it, fans, as the ambulance tour because Alex had some neck issues there, and Van
Yes, he
Halen had some
did.
back issues.
He was wearing a neck brace.
Yeah, there were a neck brace called the ambulance tour, and that was the last tour with Sammy until Gary Sharon stepped in, which
Hmm.
never got any fair play. I mean,
Right.
I go back and I listen to it, and I'm like, Van Halen's playing got heavier, more experimental, and I'm like, damn, that was such a great album, but no one wanted to give it a chance. I remember it was 2000, I believe it was, and I was at this small CD stores. We had CD stores,
Hmm.
and they had a discount bin full of Van Halen 3 albums for 99 cents. And that was the first
Wow.
time I heard Van Halen 3. I'm like, wow. It's kind of
Wow.
like how a couple of years ago you could find Guns N' Roses' Chinese Democracy at the dollar store. And I'm
Right.
not making that up. At the dollar store with a Best Buy sticker that says $14.99. And you're like,
Yeah, it's
come on, really?
yep.
Someone has to buy these and get them out of here. This is
Well,
insulting.
trends. I'm not saying it was a trend, but maybe trends at that time, it was not in fashion.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think that from 96 on to 99, 2000, music was in a very weird place. It was going all
Yeah,
over. You
yeah,
had like a little bit of 60s fashion coming in with the red latex pants everyone was wearing, right? But then you
yeah.
had a Creed stepping in, and was it grunge? Was it metal until new metal stepped in? That's when it was a
Yep.
weird time for music.
Very confusing time for music.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of something very monumental coming up, you are not long away from June 11th, which, if my memory serves me right, which is still far away from here, but that will be the 30th anniversary of the first metal album to hit the Billboard 200 charts, Slave to
Oh,
the Grind.
Slave to the Grind. Yeah.
30 years, right? 30 years, second album, and you guys just launched an assault, a sonic assault on listeners everywhere, where things just got a little bit heavier and a
That was a
little more
that was a
crazy.
that was a fun record. It was a really fun record to make.
Well, you
Um,
made it at New
yeah,
River Studios in Fort Lauderdale,
yeah,
right?
yeah. You're down in South Florida, right?
Yeah, and that
We were
place,
we were at New River Studios in Fort Lauderdale, under under a drawbridge there somewhere along one of those rivers.
and they had that crazy nightclub, right? It was called Squeeze, I think it was called.
Yeah, yeah. We went there once. Um, it was more of a dance club.
It was
We
okay.
we used to go to the Button South,
Ah, which closed,
and they
right? Which
were
now is
open till
strip club.
6 in the morning. So you would walk out of there hammered, and the sun would be blinding you in the eyes. Be like, "Oh my God, we got to be in the studio in 3 hours." So the Button South was really really wild nightclub with live metal bands.
Everyone played there.
Um,
Pantera was there all the time.
Yep, yep.
You talk
And
about,
the
yep,
Saigon Kick guys basically ran that place. Was in their backyard, and that was their spot. And we would hang out with them a lot down there. So,
very underrated band too. Gosh,
yeah,
talk about
yeah.
heavy and just. I think record labels just didn't know what to classify them as. They're like, well,
They
what
were
are they?
they were ahead of their time.
Yep.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
we.
if they came out when grunge was coming out, they would have been much bigger. And
Yeah, and then the ballad was kind of like a shot in the foot. It was like,
yeah,
well, they don't make heavy stuff,
well,
do they?
yeah,
It's
right.
good in the sense that it was a huge hit,
Yeah,
but
sure, sure.
people want to give time to look at the other stuff and accept it. You have a different audience,
Yeah,
maybe, but that was
yeah.
true because I remember my dad worked right in front of New River Studios in 97,
Oh
98. So I would
yeah,
go there and I was like, they have it was very intimate setting there. And then
yeah.
it's like a little village almost where New
It
River
was
was,
really cool. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think well, let's see. Extreme recorded three sides to every story there too.
Hmm.
Inga recorded there, Michael Jackson recorded there. That place was
Hmm.
ideal. Now it's empty. There's nothing there. It's been gone for years, but it is a part of rock and roll history. That small studio in that little alleyway. You don't
Yeah,
see it anymore.
yeah.
But getting back at to it though, I mean, you guys kick off this huge album, and now it's 91, and you guys are going to open for Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Use Your Illusion,
Yep.
which I'm assuming had to be insane, right? They're at the top of their
They
game
were
now,
massive. They were massive, and we were doing good. So that was a big tour.
right? Is
It
there
was
any
a big.
crazy fond memory you had of you running with Slash or Axel? I mean, because it was such a huge production,
Oh yeah,
that tour, right?
those guys were great, man. They were really good to us, and um, there wasn't a lot of like musical stuff going on. It was more of a party thing going on because they were all very active in their
Oh,
own habits, and so were we. So there's a lot of that going on. I mean, I was in my own world during that period, but it was uh, it was just a big, exciting tour.
yeah.
Big outdoor. We call them sheds. The big amphitheaters. And I remember we did a show in Toledo where it had rained the night before, and people still talk about how muddy this gig was. It was just the mud was everywhere and it was flying all over the place. And then there was the infamous St. Louis riot, and we were on that show. So we're sitting in our dressing room, and one of their security guys comes running in and says, "Get out of the building. All hell's breaking loose. You guys got to leave. Get on your bus and just get out of here." And I mean, our bus was moving when I jumped on. It was rolling, and we were jumping on the bus. And getting out of there, and we're going down the highway, and there's just nothing but police cars coming the other way. And we're talking about the riot in St. Louis at the
Right.
Guns N' Roses show. If,
That's when when
people,
Axl said, "Thanks to the late mass security, I'm going home."
something like
Was
that.
that, or is that what that was?
I wasn't watching the show. I was hanging out in the dressing room.
Well, I'm sorry. I may be confusing that for the Metallica one, where he got hit with the flame. He was
Oh,
at a field,
right,
and then he
right.
said,
That was
"The
up
end of
in
the
yeah,
show."
that was up in Montreal, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I was
right.
confusing that, but I remember
It
that
was
was
something like that. I
yeah.
mean, one of the things that makes these singers, you know, uh, one of the unique things they have is the personality is can be volatile, and it's interesting to watch, and they're very passionate about what they do. And you got a guy like Axl that, at that time could set off, he could be set off real easy. So there was a lot of walking out of gigs. There was a lot of showing up late and things like that. So,
Yeah.
we played Nassau Coliseum. I don't think those guys went on till 2 a.m. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was just one of those deals that it was not a good thing, but
Yeah.
you
Came with the
can't take,
territory at the
you
time.
can't take away from a dangerous band. A dangerous band
No.
is just going to be dangerous.
Right.
And I
They
give them
they
that.
lived it. It
Oh yeah.
wasn't
Oh yeah.
no
Definitely.
gimmick there. It was a real deal.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't
They
seem
were
like
great.
that. And then, well, here's the thing. So then you guys do that, and then that same album, you guys say, okay, now we're gonna do a headlining tour, and we're gonna get two bands to open for us. And who do you get? Pantera and Soundgarden.
Yes.
Both basically just put on a platform to launch into the universe. I mean, we got Cowboys from Hell was put out maybe a year prior, but was just gonna get picked up on the radio in '92.
Yeah.
And then you have, I don't know if on that same tour, Vulgar Display of Power. So you got Walk on the radio now. I mean,
So Vulgar was we heard Vulgar Display of Power the first night of the tour. They had just
okay.
finished it. It had not been released yet, and they came to our bus and presented us their record, and we were just like, "Oh man, oh my God, this is great!" Because I was a big fan. I had before that, I had been painting my kitchen, and I was sick, and I was drinking this cough medicine, and I was like really high, and I was listening to this station in New Jersey, WSOU. It was a college station, and they were the only place to hear metal, probably in the whole country, practically, and except for KNAC, of course. But Cowboys from Hell came on, and I was just blown away, blown away. I got in my car. I drove to a record store. I bought the record, came back, finished painting my kitchen. By the time I was done, I was a fan, and I brought it to the other guys in the band. And I said, "Listen to these guys." We were just floored. So we were like,
Wow.
"Let's try and bring them on tour with us." So we
Yeah.
did. We did. We
Yeah.
got Pantera on the road, and I'll tell you what, man, there is nothing to get you charged up for a show than standing there and watching those guys when you got to go on in 45 minutes.
I could
Like
imagine.
it just you got to bring your A game, man. Absolutely every night. Because
Wow.
those guys were just a spectacle, an absolute spectacle.
I remember there's a footage of you guys playing Walk. I think during that tour, you guys were covering it, and I tried to get good footage of who was playing the solo. It sounded just like Dime. But there was no footage of Dime. It was of Sebastian, you, Snake, and I didn't see Dime in there. But the solo was definitely being played, and it sounded identical.
He must have been there somewhere. I
Right?
mean, there were a couple of nights where we all got together and played. We used to play Cold Gin a lot.
Yeah, I saw
I
some videos of
remember
that.
one night, I think it was Dime and Rex. They took a bunch of Coors Light. Well, I remember Dime was like Gene Simmons, and he did his face paint, and they took the Coors Light boxes that were like kind of silver and made like Gene Simmons boots and chest protector and all that stuff out of the Coors Light.
That I saw last week. I found that video. That's a
Yeah,
great video. Yeah,
yeah.
that was insane. So you guys,
There was another night in Hannibal, Missouri, where between the stage and the audience was like this sandy area. It looked like a beach. It was like 30 feet to the audience, and they were separated by a chain link fence. It was just some sort of primitive, staging setup. So those guys during our show, they brought lawn chairs and a cooler and fireworks and sat in that beachy area and drank beer and shut off fireworks during our set. It was hilarious. It's the funniest thing ever.
Oh my gosh, what the fans were thinking? They probably want to get in on that. So
Oh yeah, man.
like it was just a constant party when those dudes were there, right?
It was really, really a lot of fun, and it was a lot of excess also.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about partying. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys did it up.
We thought we could drink until we hooked up with those guys.
Yeah, right? Oh my gosh, that's insane. You think another guy who was heavily influenced by Van Halen,
Yeah.
Big one. We all know he was influenced by Randy in a big way.
We would talk shop. We would talk guitar shop for hours. Hours with Dimebag. Yeah.
Wow.
And then you bring up the Soundgarden. That happened. Now that wasn't really the three of us touring together. We did a few shows with the three of us, but when Pantera had to leave the tour to go on their first tour of Japan, they were gone for maybe 2 weeks, and Soundgarden came. So we had Soundgarden out with us, which was a whole different thing, man. It's like
right.
They were so great.
And at that time, they had let's see, they hadn't come out with their major release of I think it was 94, 95.
Yeah.
But they had Outshine, which is a killer track.
Yep.
Rusty Cage was already there.
Oh yeah.
And then they were there again on the uprise to becoming massive, right?
Yep.
And they both started out opening up for Skid Row on these crazy tours that were just sound like one hell of a time. You could be a fly on the wall.
They would go out and do these just massive sets, and you'd talk to them afterwards, and they were just like the most mellow, friendly guys. And they'd go out there, and they were just a monster, scary band. And then afterwards, they're just really super cool, chill, kind of stonerish.
Yeah.
Really nice guys. Yeah.
Gosh, that's so crazy. What memories from that, right? And then shortly after you guys go with Van Halen, so it just seemed like going these these monumental moments when in your career.
Yeah. Sure.
Insane. And kind of backtrack. You got to tell me about this because in the master class we did, someone brought this up and you went into detail about Saturday Night Live. And I'm sitting here trying to hold back. So I'm like, this is a master class. This is not about me. I don't want to ask them to further these questions. Well, there's a time and place for this. Well, this is right now. I got to hear it. I mean, walk us through that because you got pretty detailed. You said they had a limo pick you guys up in 91 to do an SNL to be the musical guest. Tell me about it. Tell us about it.
Well, I think somebody had asked me what's like one of the most memorable gigs, and there's some big shows, those early Monsters of Rock Donington gigs, and some gigs in South America that were massive. But I think one of the ones that stands out the most would be Saturday Night Live, and Kiefer Sutherland was the host. And at the time, he and Julia Roberts had just broken up, so there was a whole paparazzi thing going on, and all that talk. And but you rehearse up there at Rockefeller Center at Studio 8H. You rehearse 2 or 3 days during the week. And they got their thing going on. They're working all week long, but they bring the artist in. We went in twice for rehearsal, and the whole thing is like limos pick you up at your house. They bring you to New York. You get out, it feels special and important. You get dropped off at Rockefeller Center in a limo to go up to SNL. It's a big deal. Yeah. So, but it's just one of those things that, growing up watching it. I mean, I've been watching it from the beginning. I was a little kid when I started watching it. My sister would let me stay up and watch it, and it's a lot smaller than it looks on TV. That stage is really tiny. It looks big. It looks big. Yeah, I watch our set. I'm like, that's not the stage we played on. We played on a little postage stamp size stage, but it's real small, and it's very nervous. You're very nervous when you do that, because it's live. They were counting down till the end of the commercial when we would be introduced, and for some reason my guitar was not coming through. The tech fixed it just as they were going live. It's like something you'd see in a cheesy movie. But we were band on fire. We wanted to make an impression.
No, you definitely did. I posted those videos and I said I don't think there was a heavier band to ever play Saturday Night Live. I mean, you look at the appearance and just the energy that was brought. I mean, you guys did Monkey Business, which you could find online. You got to dig for it. But I was questioning. I said, but every musical artist gets 2 songs. Where's the other song? There had to be another song there. And you had told me you had your black Fender at the time. We'll get into that. For one of the songs, I said, well, it wasn't Monkey Business. So I did some digging, and we asked on Masters of Shred, and a follower came through from Russia, I believe, and I may be wrong about where, or Slovakia, I believe it was. But he had it. Over there, they have it online. We can't get it here in the States. People don't get it. We can't access it. It's all scrambled.
The Saturday Night Live, they pull stuff as soon as it shows up.
Exactly. Well, hopefully this will still be up there. But we got the footage, a piece of me with the black guitar. I think now Masters of Shred is like something like 38 or 40,000 views, but people loved it. I mean, I'd never seen the performance before. You couldn't get it. Yeah. But that was your black guitar. But before we get into that, you actually, I mean, remember, this is Saturday Night Live. It is huge, but this is a time when this has the most dynamic cast ever. Adam Sandler, Chris Farley, Phil Hartman, Chris Rock. I mean, the list goes on and on. Yeah. David Spade. Yeah. Did you have run-ins with those guys?
Yeah, we met all of them. They were great, and a lot of them were like fans, like David Spade and Adam Sandler. They were just like, they were coming to our room looking for us.
No kidding.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And when you're there, you get a little tiny dressing room. It's an old building, man.
Yeah.
So the artist dressing rooms are pretty small, green rooms. Pardon me. And I remember Kiefer Sutherland was right across the hall. There's the guest host dressing room, and then the musical guest dressing room right across from each other. And he would pop his head in and say hello. But we met all the cast, and they were all great, and they were real happy to see us. They all came to watch rehearsal. It was an amazing experience, really amazing.
It's funny, they had a sketch on there too where it was Gap Girls, and they were hanging out backstage with Skid Row. And I'm like, "Where's Scotti?" Rachel was there, Snake was there, Sebastian, but I didn't see you. Like, where'd he go?
It was I think it was Rachel and Sebastian. Was Snake there too?
Yeah. Snake was there too.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, "Where's Scotti?"
They didn't have room for the whole band.
So, that's what it was.
So we were voted out. Rob and I were voted out.
That's what it was. Okay. I mean, there was a part of that when I guess Sebastian was putting the moves on David Spade, and he runs out of the dressing room, and then Sebastian does this crazy spider walk out the door and goes, "Come back here, woman, you're mine." And the way he said it, though, you could see the band was behind him. Rachel was there. Snake were there. They were trying so hard not to laugh. Just by the grand way he made that announcement, he walked through the door. It's like, this is so silly. What is this? But it was great,
Good fun, that stuff.
Really right? Different times, man. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And of course, if I don't say Kitty Metal or give a heads up to Kitty Metal sketch, I'm going to get it from everybody. They're going to remember they had the Guns N' Roses Kitty Metal thing, and that was that episode,
I remember Adam Sandler doing Axl. It was like, whoa.
You could tell he was a fan. Let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He's a rocker.
You can't do that and not be a fan. But
you were talking about that black Fender.
Let's go back to the black Fender. Yeah, because Guitar's got some history where it became, well, more than the guitar of the week here at Masters of Shred. It was the guitar of the week. But you had the finish stripped off of that thing, and you did some Frankenstrat kind of work to it. Well.
Yeah, it went through a few changes. So that guitar, the black guitar in Saturday Night Live, eventually became what I call the brown guitar, which is the first of a series that I've had over the years of mahogany body, maple neck, super strats. So that was the first one. The it got broken up in a hotel room, which is another story. But a new body was sent, and that body was painted by somebody, did like custom paint job, and I didn't care for it, so I stripped all the paint off down to the bare wood and just left it that way. And um, that was the first one, and that guitar has just got, it's just, I played a hole through it practically. You know, the top is like just from grinding away on it. The top is like,
Wow.
it's got a big divot in it, and you know, because there's no finish protecting the wood. So I mean, every night it was handed back soaking wet, and it's really, I mean, it's the relic of all relics, really. And then not long after I started using that regularly, I had another one made. I had that one made without the finish. Just don't even put a finish on it. And it's, that one's got a telly headstock, and those were Fenders. What's that model? You know the name of that model? There was a model a while back. It was like kind of like a dinky. It's like a kind of like a Charvel dinky that
What,
Fender.
Fender made it?
Yeah, yeah.
And did it have a pointy headstock?
I don't think so. No,
Okay.
no, it didn't. No.
So they had the HM Strats that were all decked out with. That's it.
That's
I was
it.
I was about to go really deep and pull out the Fender Talon on you. I'm like, you ain't talking about Talon, right? Because who mentions that name? I mean, it was a weird headstock, but it was their answer to Shred, the Talon. Remember those?
Okay. No,
Those are
I don't
actually
remember. I don't
those
remember
things have
that.
gone up in value. They're not the best looking guitars
Uh-huh.
headstock wise,
Uh-huh.
but they're just so weird, and like you can see they were really trying. And
Right.
I think it was actually called a Heartfield Talon by Fender.
Okay. Okay.
It's got a name to it, but yeah,
Interesting.
HM Strats are. I love HM Strats.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what the original one was.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then years later, Dean made one and never went into production.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's build up to that because that was a pretty insane moment. So,
Right.
folks, let me explain this. I was going through the classifieds, the worldwide of classifieds on guitars, looking for things I usually don't need, but I can rationalize why I need to spend the money on them. So I came across a guitar that was a bare wood finish Dean, USA custom shop. Didn't really say a whole lot about it, right? $2,300 back in the day. One humbucker, single coil, and I go, man, this looks just like Scotti's Yamaha he's got now. So naturally, I had to reach out to you. I texted you and I said, hey, man, you seen this? And you came back to me and said, that's actually a prototype of my guitar with Dean. That's supposed to be my signature guitar. So tell us about that, because little things like that are so cool to know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a friend of mine named John Hill went to work at Dean, and we got together and put together the Brown guitar. They made a very small run of those, maybe, you know, six or eight, maybe less. I'm not sure. I remember seeing the bodies there, but I got the prototype, and it was basically, you know, the same guitar. You know, it's like a humbucker single Floyd, mahogany body, maple neck, one knob, and a three-way switch. And it just didn't work out at Dean. I don't remember what happened. They didn't want to. I don't think they wanted to release it because, you know, I mean, basically, it's not a flashy looking guitar. It doesn't have, you know, it's got like a gun oil finish. It's not like fancy colors and stuff. So I don't think they could sell a bunch of them. So John had left Dean and started his own company, Bootleg Guitars. He built me the same guitar, practically almost identical, except for the headstock. And that guitar I used for years. You know, it put a lot of miles on it. I started putting notches. Took a knife every gig and put a little notch, and they go all the way around the guitar. And that was like, yeah, that guitar got a lot of use. So these guitars, those now we're up to 4 of these Brown guitars. There's the 2 Fenders, the Dean. which was played live a couple of times, and then the bootleg, which was played live for some years, and then now we're at Yamaha.
Yeah.
So they built me this, which is what we've been talking about here.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Very
This
similar
is-
to that Dean.
This is a Pacifica
Yeah.
body, but that's, it's the same guitar basically.
Yep. I always like their headstocks. They're very cool. And they
Yeah,
put the
that's
big
a
crest,
great
the
looking
Yamaha
headstock.
crest.
A great
Right?
looking headstock. My
Got some good
favorite.
style and flair to it.
Yeah, it really does. Really
Yeah.
does. But this is a good guitar.
That is great. It looks very similar to me. Kind of looks like this. I don't
Look
know.
at that.
I don't
Look
know.
at that.
I did it. I did it.
Wow. That's amazing. He got that Dean.
I got that Dean.
That's a
That
nice
Scotti
guitar.
Hill Dean. No, you know what? I was really impressed. I got it, and you can't tell really, but it's got a nice satin finish, like you were talking about, right?
Yep.
And at first, I'm like, wow, this neck's a little chunkier. And then it started to hurt about 15 minutes of playing, and then I'm like, man, this feels amazing. The tone is so much fatter and warmer than any other guitar I have, which I see the light now. Thicker necks are sometimes a lot better than super paper thin ones. So, yes. Oh my gosh,
Mahogany.
exactly. Yeah.
Mahogany's very, like, to me, it sounds very warm.
Yes, it does.
Warm sound to it.
Super warm, great guitar, and of course the fretboard too is all like the nice flame kind of maple to it too. It's a beautiful guitar. There's no doubt. And I looked at it, and they called this the V88, and I said to you, like, I think you asked me, what do they call it? I said 88 something. You're like, that's the one.
That's it. Yeah.
That was it. Yep. And they had they didn't give you the pickups at Duncan's. I think it was you'd wanted, so they made their own. They had their own, hand
they
wired.
were way into doing some pickups at that time.
Yep.
And I think Pat Baker had some nice pickups out of Dean. Yeah.
Yep. And they are full. That guitar I plugged up. I have like at the same time I bought that, I purchased like a Fernandez Function because I was inspired by Brad's Strat, and I got a black and gold one. And then this thing, pops up, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then when you came back to me and said, yeah, that was a prototype of mine, I said, okay.
Yep.
Things come along in life, you got to pull the trigger on. This is it. So
it's a good guitar, man.
No, it plays and feels great. You're right. It's not like this flashy. It's more mature playing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the kind of guitar you could take to any gig, right? And you got the performance and the quality and everything like that. Which I'm sure you get the same thing with Yamaha, because Yamaha builds incredible guitars. I'm still trying to get what did they call the Yamaha 2112, the one that Dave Leverty from Firehouse used.
Bill Leverty. Bill Leverty.
Bill Leverty. Yes,
right.
I was thinking of the guitar. Yes, 100%. He had them, and I was going to snag two earlier this year, and I wish I did. They came up late midnight, sold quick. You can't find them anymore.
Man, I can tell you how many times I wished I'd clicked that button. Woke up the next morning and it was gone.
Right? Isn't that sad? They say as a guitar player, if you get that, just do it. Pull the trigger. You're going to regret it if you don't. Money comes and goes. You'll find a way to pay the mortgage. That guitar you'll never find again, right? And you got to say which one's more important, right? Priorities, the guitar. 100%.
Well, just don't look at reverb before you go to bed.
Right? That's the biggest. Well, so here's something. You want to never buy a guitar again? Just go look up Wolfgang's. Good luck on that. Oh my gosh. The price gouging today.
I'll bet.
Oh, dude, I could have gotten the 98 Wolfgang PV standard he used in the Humans Being video before he passed for $1,100 to $1,200. Hell, a guy had it for $1,775 3 months ago, and I waited on that. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That guitar, people want $2,900 for. I'm like, you should be ashamed.
It's a great guitar, man. But they're price gouging like crazy. I love that neck. I love the neck.
Oh, the small radius there.
I had the PV.
You did, yeah. Those PVs are great because they were making the specials in America too. You could get a special that wasn't an arch top, but it's American made. I mean,
it was so nice, and it had a beautiful curly maple top. It was gorgeous.
Right? Now you got to go. I mean, EVH Gear is still pumping out some pretty badass ones. They have a purple sparkle flake that I'm in love with. It's a special, but it's ebony fretboard. And for us diehards, we kind of want that maple. you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I had the
So
bird's eye maple. It was gorgeous.
it's hard to beat those, man.
Sold it to a
So
guy in Vegas that's got must have 100 of them. He collects them.
yeah, I hope he's not the same guy who's been buying guitars off of like everybody. I know there's one guy who's bought signature models from Brad Gillis. He's bought signature models from Steve Brown, and
This
he
guy
goes,
collects Wolfgangs.
"Okay, good.
It's all
That's the
Wolfgangs.
guy."
He's got easily 100 of them.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah, I
Insane.
forgot his
So
name, but
nuts.
he's
That's
probably
cool
one.
though. I'm sure he's sitting on a lot of good money now. Let me ask you, what was one guitar you wish you never sold?
My '78 Fender Telecaster, my
Yeah.
first good guitar. Yeah, yeah. And
I'm
I
sure.
love Telecasters. I'm a total Tele guy. I just love them.
You
And
were telling me about that.
that was my first really good guitar. I got it at I think I got it at Manny's.
Wow.
Yes, I did get it at Manny's. I got my Les Paul at Manny's. Got my Tele at Manny's. I don't have that anymore, but I do have this, which is a 56.
Oh
That
my gosh.
that is my baby.
That is beautiful.
It's
Wow.
got it's got some miles on it. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I love Tellies, and if I had that, I wish I still had that 78 because that was a special guitar. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
and
you
I got
don't
it.
see
Yeah,
it like that, man. That's
yeah,
a wicked Telecaster you got there though. You
yeah.
know?
It's pretty badass. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Shoot.
A
Yeah.
few years ago, I sold a bunch of guitars and bought a few vintage guitars that I always wanted. So I
Yeah.
got rid of some things I didn't play for some things that I do play. So, there's not a lot of banging on a Floyd Rose around the house. It's usually, a Les Paul or an old Fender or something like that, and a lot of
Right?
acoustic. I play a lot of acoustic at home.
Yeah. That's it seems like a lot of people go more the classic route. Afterwards, I feel like yeah, well, for practicality, it's easier to play on a fixed bridge or a tune-o-matic 'cause you have to deal with the tuning issues of the Floyd, and you can drop it quickly and do all that kind of cool stuff with
Yeah,
it.
I block my Floyds. My
Oh,
Floyds are all. I got a trem stop in there.
yep, I noticed because I'm pretty sure
So,
you got one on this guitar here. The Dean has that too.
yep. So
I was trying to pull down and go back. I'm like, you ain't going back
you,
up on that
you
thing.
can't pull back. Yeah.
Yep.
But it's like a lifesaver if you break a string during a show.
Oh yeah.
You can at least play the guitar long enough to, because otherwise you're holding something that looks like a guitar,
Yeah.
doesn't sound like a guitar. you know?
Right. These little
So
things like this.
once that tension lets loose on the Floyd, it's nice to have a full floater, but I can't use them live. They bounce around too much, and so I started blocking them off
Yeah.
from the very beginning. Yeah.
Well, that says something because I just thought that was a trend that started in the past like 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're the first ones to get into that because
Yeah, that Jackson's got some. I fabricated some sort of plastic thing that's screwed in there, and I made this little plastic shim that goes in there, and yeah,
that's how you did it. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. That's
Mm-hmm.
pretty insane. Yeah, that's pretty cool though. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta do what works for you. And that definitely
Mm-hmm.
works for you. I gotta tell this guitar, I'm like, he's put a stop thing in this, right? The trem stopper, because I can feel I ain't going back on this thing. Yeah, see, that just goes to show that it's definitely a prototype of yours.
That's right.
That's
right.
it right there. So I gotta ask you, I asked everybody this in closing out, how does Scotti Hill define shred?
It's more of a passion than a technique. It's more of a Salvador Dali than a Michael Jordan. But if you put them both together, maybe you have a shredder. But it's got to have the passion. And there's Eddie right there. Eddie Van Halen, the passion, you can hear it when you listen to Eruption. You hear the eye of the tiger, man. It's so raw, so powerful, so I'm gonna show you something. It's really, really it's got to have that passion. But it also, shredding also has to be flashy.
It comes with the
But
territory, right?
if you go on Instagram and you watch these guys, they do amazing things, but it doesn't say anything. It's incredible to watch. I can't even in a dream, I couldn't even imagine what it's like to be able to do that. But there's got to be more to it. There has to be the passion. You can't be it's too much pressing buttons, you know?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not pressing buttons. How fast can you press the button? You know?
Right.
When I see
Right.
these guys that do the how many notes you can play in 10 seconds, it's laughable. It's like it's silly.
I've gotten that before. I've gotten people to say, "Hey, I have the world record for the fastest playing. Can you feature my video?" And then I listen to it. I'm like, it sounds like you just put your garbage disposal on and threw like all your silverware inside of it.
Right,
So I'm
right.
like, I don't see the
It's
appealingness.
not a sport. See, music is not a sport.
Yeah, right.
So, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a fast player. I sometimes I wonder what I'm doing talking to you. It's a shredder thing. I don't
Oh,
consider myself a shredder guy.
but you
So,
are though, because you
but
know what? You
no, all
make
right,
the most melodic. I
I'll
call it
take it.
shredlodic.
All
Shredlodic
right,
solos.
yeah,
When I
that's
think
cool.
of Skid
That's
Row, I
cool.
think of a few different solos that stand out. They're like, oh my gosh, that's I can hum it. It is in my face memorable. I love it. I could tell like this was really well thought out. Or maybe he didn't think at all when he wrote it. It just came to him. It sounds amazing.
Well,
And
thank
that's
you.
why you're on it, and you have that. So yeah, you don't have to be Speed Racer and Shred to make a statement. I definitely agree. I mean, look at
Mhm.
Eddie. Eddie could have played three notes.
Yeah, I mean,
Just that sounded
I think my
cooler.
favorite Eddie Van Halen solo is probably "Push Comes to Shove,"
Oh,
and that to me is just that's oh god, I get chills just thinking about that solo.
yep.
It's
Yeah.
everything about it. And I'm not the big tapping guy. I don't do it myself. But that's such a classy application of tapping.
So
Oh,
would that be your favorite Van Halen solo?
it could be. Yeah, it could be. It is right now because I got goosebumps, man. Yeah,
Right? Yeah. I
I
you know I
love it.
didn't I didn't take you for a Sammy Hagar fan, but I didn't know that you liked Right Now. Just kidding, guys. There it is. There it is. Damn.
You got me.
Yeah. I can't think of a solo because there's it's to say my favorite. But you know what's funny? I heard guys saying that "You're No Good" is their favorite solo, and I went back and listened to it, and I go, yeah, that is a
Yeah,
mean, menacing, and I think
it
Steve Brown
is.
said he's like he just every expression your guitar can make to make it cry, he is
Yeah,
just like hammering on like. And I went back
it's
and listened
true.
to it, and I go, yeah,
It's
yeah,
true.
that solo
Yeah.
is
I'm
monstrous,
singing it in my head right now. I can remember it really well.
right? Very mean, but
Man.
yeah,
Oh,
again. It's hard to say I want to see another Van Halen because I think those are ginormous shoes that will probably never get filled. It puts a lot of pressure on players to ever try to say that because again, you have to have an instantly recognizable sound where you play three notes. I can say, oh, I know who that is.
how can you like with what's happened with guitar playing? I mean, it's developed so much. It's come so far. What's next? You
That's
know,
exactly right.
how
How
many
do
back
you
how
separate
many
yourself,
backflips can a guy do on a bicycle? You
right?
know, it's like 100 backflips. It's like the same thing with guitar. So where does it go from here? I mean, adding more strings and stuff like that, to me, that's not the answer. Um, it's taking what you have. That's the game for me. For me, it's 21 frets and 22 frets and six strings. So but I like old stuff. I like the old style guitars and all that. So maybe if I was just coming up today, it would be something different. Maybe I'd have one of those guitars with the big giant neck and all that stuff. But and those are really cool. But I like the old stuff.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is tough though because I feel like there's a lot of players where everyone's trying to say, well, what can I be the next thing here to make it unique? And it's hard to say what hasn't been done already. So
Yeah,
much has been done, but then again, we'd probably be saying that before Van Halen, right? Everything's been done on the guitar, and
yeah,
then this guy
right,
comes out. It just takes one
right.
visionary to just say, okay, wait
Yeah,
till you see this,
yeah,
and then you're like, okay, there it is.
yeah.
You know,
Totally. Yeah.
just find that right person.
There's
But
some just incredible players out there.
oh
Just so
yeah,
many incredible players.
monsters, and
Yeah,
I
I mean, what
think
are
like
you into?
it's
Are you into strat guys? Are you into classical guys? Are you into, they're all there. They're all there.
yeah, they all are. Yeah, and
But
it's
it's more than pressing buttons. Don't see how fast you can press the button.
yeah,
You got
that
to
is
you
true.
got to serve the song. End of story.
That's what Eddie did too.
Your guitar
You've
playing
done that. You know
has
how to
to
do that.
serve the
Yep.
song.
Serve the song 100%. It
Yeah.
doesn't complement the song. It doesn't make any sense, you
Well,
know?
yeah. I mean, are you in a band or is it about you? You know, if you're in a
Right.
band and you're all playing the songs, it's about the band. It's about the song. It's not about
Right.
you. You know,
Right.
you get a couple bars in there to show people what you got, but it's got to serve the song. End of story.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it. I think it's also probably a great way to close it off that you get back at what you're doing. But before we do, how or where can our followers follow you?
Mostly Instagram. Yeah,
Mostly.
Scotty Hill, SCOTTIHILL
No, that's simple enough.
on the Instagram format.
On the Instagram.
Yeah.
And also, you'll see a lot of Scotty on our page, obviously. We're going to keep that going. Find some
Yeah.
good content of you. I think I found some. I tried to find a picture of you and Dimebag, and there was a photo shoot that took place. It was in black and white, and you're in it. It's you,
Mm-hmm.
Snake, Dime, and I think Ace Freely. I'd
No,
like
Kim.
this.
From
Kim.
Soundgarden. Yep.
Oh, yes. That's who it is.
Dale.
Okay.
Yep.
There it is. You already know what I'm talking
Soundgarden.
about.
That was for the Guitar World shoot. Yeah, you know what? I am looking for pictures of me and Dimebag because you know this is all before iPhones and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't exist. People had to, you know, back then it was the disposable camera that people used to bring and, you know, send in to get the film developed. So, you know, the pictures are out there. There's pictures of us on stage together. There's pictures of me playing his guitar on stage with Pantera. But, you know, it's not like it is now where there's pictures of everything.
Right.
Back
Maybe
then it was,
we'll do this open call. If anybody has any pictures
yeah.
back in the day, with Scotty and Dime, or any other player we don't seen, send them over, and we'll post them. We'll send them to you,
I'd be
and you can
grateful.
check them out. That'd be great to get, man. Gosh,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. But so we can follow you on there, and anything we should be looking out for as far as Skid Row go ahead.
Well, you know, we've been working on a record for a while now, and the pandemic came along and things slowed down, and we went back and went over our work that we were, you know, listened back and decided we needed more. So we're in phase 2 of our record. We're still writing, and I think from what I hear, but I'm the last to find out these things. I don't really pay attention, but I think we're going back in the studio next month, which will be November 2020, and knock this thing out.
Hell yeah.
We'll see.
Okay.
You know, hey man, I love my band. I love my brothers. I kind of, when you need me, call. I'm here.
Right? There it is. That's awesome, dude. Well, listen, I'm happy to see you on social media. I remember when I saw it, I came over your account the first time, I'm like, this is Scotty Hill's page? What? And I think I found out you follow him. I'm like, he follows too? This is great. So I always appreciate your support. I appreciate the masterclass you did. Can't wait to have you again and put something together that can maybe even top what we did before, which is so hard because we set the bar high on our masterclass. It's pretty insane. But I think we could do it.
Really great. Yeah. Have you done the one with Joel yet?
Yes. Did one with Joel. Awesome. He was like, that lesson
such a
was.
monster.
I'm like, yeah. 5 minutes in, I had a grin on my face where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I can get my guitar right now. I need to be a student for this class. Wow. So I actually watched it afterwards. I'm like, oh my gosh, his techniques are insane.
Oh, yeah. He's just insane.
Yeah, he is another force to be reckoned with. And now we're doing, we have one with Archie Cruz in the band Santa Cruz. Which,
I know him.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
We toured together. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. And he's doing one, and we got all, you know, CDs and personal shout-out videos he'll be giving the first 10 people to sign up. So no one's thought of that yet. And I said, you know what? I got an idea. Let's do some shout-out bids. You just send them over to me. I'll send them to them. Make it personal.
Send him my best.
Yes. So we'll do that, but we'll have to do something again down the road. For everybody out there, follow Scotty Hill at Scotty Hill on Instagram. Keep a lookout for some possibly see some new stuff coming from Skid Row.
Yeah,
and hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And if you like Masters of Shred and the power of Shred compels you, then you may want to get a Masters of Shred, Powers of Shred compels you Reagan shirt. It's a little dark, a little scary. I was just having fun with this. And truthfully, if you want one, it's the price is so dirt cheap. I'm not making money off these. I'm just like, just support the brand. You know?
I love it. I love it.
Awesome. I'll have to send you one. You're gonna get one.
You bet.
So
I'll take it.
Done deal. Thank you so much, dude. Enjoy your weekend coming up here, and we will talk again soon. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you.
Take care, man. Talk to you soon.